Now, Sierk, finally, Ylva says there is no problem. That they know the technology works. I know you work with SecUps, you know what they know. What you are, and there is a demand. SES was ready to write a long-term agreement with them yesterday. I'm kidding a bit, but at the same time I'm not, because we are very close to finding this value chain. You've been a central figure in this value chain from the beginning, where you were founded. Your company was founded by KLM. KLM is one of the pioneers, together with Air France eventually, but KLM started the whole thing. So tell us a little bit about how it started and what's in the future, because you have probably followed this for the longest time in this room.
Thank you, Jacob. Yes, that's exactly what I will talk about. First of all, thank you for being here. Thank you for the invite. I love the scenery here. I keep on telling everybody how I love this. So very, very happy to be here. First, my presentation was titled Recent Developments in Biojet Fuel. I put the recent in brackets because I figured at day 2 at this conference, I think we know a lot about the recent developments in ASTM certification, policy, CORSIA, all those kind of things. What I want to do today is look back, because it's been around 10 years ago since the first flight on biojet fuel. And I want to kind of stand still by the milestones that we have reached so far, also to put the entire discussion into context, and also to emphasize the pioneering role that the various people here in the room have played in reaching these milestones to get sustainable aviation fuel in the market. So first, who is SkyNRG? And I want to start with this, because I think this is what we're all here for, and this is also why SkyNRG was founded. Because I think most people will not refrain from flying to reduce their carbon footprint. People need to fly, want to fly, they need to move. And I think the carbon footprint, they are conscious about it, and they do want to reduce it, but they still need to fly. So what we want to try to do is to stop the carbon footprint from refraining us to fly. So we want to find a solution, we want to find a structural solution, and we believe sustainable aviation fuel is the way to go in the decades to come. So that's what we're here for. And that's also why we were founded. We were founded back in 2009 by KLM and other shareholders to make this market, which is of course a very broad target, you could say. So what we did is, first of all, we said, okay, if we want to do something different, we need to do it good. So we founded a sustainability board with, for example, WWF International in there, who advises us on sustainability such that we don't compromise on that important part of the supply chain. In the years after we supplied the first commercial flight, the first series of commercial flights, we supplied, all these airlines on different continents, just to show the world that this is possible, and this is a thing, and this is the direction we're going. In 2014, we found that there was a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of pioneering spirit here in the Nordics. So that's why we also work together with our Nordic partners to also initiate the biojet fuel movement over here. And in the meantime, we're also involved in many supply chain development activities in the Netherlands, but also in Europe, and also more globally. So for example, in Canada, we're also very active. And in 2016, there was the first continuous supply of biojet fuel, and we were also there. So we're also supplying from Los Angeles. So we're doing all those things, and people ask me often, okay, but what is SkyNRG? What do you do, right? What is your role? And I tell them, basically we have two roles. On the short term, we do the operations. So we make sure the jet fuel is in the right tank. So people tell me, okay, I understand, you're a broker. And I'm like, no, sorry, I have to disappoint you. We're more than that. We make sure we source the fuel and make sure everything is arranged up to the tank of the airplane. So that means blending, ASTM certification, guarantee of sustainability, arranging the logistics. We also partake in co-funding the premium. That's also why we, together with our partners, initiated the Fly Green Fund. And we're very, very harsh on sustainability. We really want to guarantee, and we really want to do the best we can on that subject. Then on the longer term, we develop regional sustainable aviation fuel supply chain. So we do bioport development. So what we do, biojet fuel is our core business, and we team up with partners for which biojet fuel is not their core business, but they do want to do something with it. So it can be airlines, airports, forestry owners, technology providers, NGOs, and try to tie them all together and make sure something happens. So people say, oh, so you're a consultant. And then I have to disappoint you again. No, we're not, because we're in here for the long haul. We want the fuel. We want to supply the fuel. We want to grow this market. So we have a strategic interest that this project will also happen and also will be followed up. We also partake in feedstock development projects and also regulatory efforts. So on global level, European level, but also regional level. So that's SkyNRG. But now I kind of want to focus on, okay, we know where we are today, but what happened in the past? And what are the key milestones that got us here that may be not so clear to the general public because the developments were not as cool as the first flight, but were very, very cardinal for our industry. So I want to start in 2013. Only 4 years ago, there was the first flight series on sustainable aviation fuel across the Atlantic. So this is the New York Post, and 2013, that's the time when Tiger Woods was still a good golf player. He's terrific again. But this was a major milestone because people saw, hey, we can do this on a continuous basis. But you have to know this was a really boutique supply chain. We had to buy diesel, we had to ship it across the Atlantic, distill the jet fraction out of it, ship it across the Atlantic back again to New York, bring it with trucks to the plane, and then the plane could fly over the Atlantic again. So really boutique, really expensive, but just to show people this is possible. But that's also how you should think. This is not easy. Then we had 2014. There was, all of a sudden, there was Karlstad Airport that said, we want a biojet fuel tank on our premises. And while this is a, it's a really nice tank, and also showed people, sitting in the plane that, hey, there's something happening here. And it's also a major sign to airports that say, well, hey, biojet fuel, we can store it on our premises. So that was basically the first step. It was a major milestone where there was dedicated infrastructure for biojet fuel. It may be a small step for the audience. It's a big step for mankind of the biojet fuel industry. Okay, so that was 2014. Then in 2016, Oslo Gardermoen decided to go even further. Here we use the existing infrastructure of the airport. So storage of the biojet fuel in the airport tank and also delivery by the airport hydrant. So that's the pipeline system under the airport. And this was also major because this also showed fuel suppliers but also airports that actually there's nothing wrong with this new substance. It's actually chemically exactly similar. So we can use it in the hydrant. So we also do not need the trucks to drive around, which was a major cost element there. So also this is has been a major cost reduction. Then in 2016, you all know the first biojet fuel factory opened in Los Angeles. And that was a major breakthrough in the beginning of the supply chain because dedicated production means also lower cost. So we saw there was dedicated infrastructure at the production side and there was existing infrastructure at the downstream infrastructure side. So this was also very, very major. Then in 2016, we go back to the Nordics again, we had the first entire supply chain in place. And that happened in Sweden. And that was a world's first. And I mean, the general audience will think, well, there's another biojet fuel supply, but this is major in our industry. Because this is the first time that the supply chain was exactly similar as the fossil fuel supply chain. Because, for example, we also use the blending facilities here in Gävle, and we also use the exact similar transport system that also fossil jet fuel uses. So this is an exact similar supply chain as, for example, getting your fossil jet fuel from Saudi Arabia transported to Arlanda. It's exactly the same. And that also means that we can also reduce the cost. And this was also this was largely enabled also by pioneering work of Swedavia, for which they also got an international airport prize, which is really big and which they also deserve because this really requires pioneering. So those were the major milestones, and this is where we are now. So this is a very nice biojet fuel flight tracker you have online. And these are yesterday morning's flight on sustainable aviation fuel. So this is the SAS flight from Arlanda to Oslo. But you see the major hubs today are Los Angeles, Oslo and Stockholm. And this is already very, very big, right? But I have a dream, to quote another one. It was not intentionally. I want this. These are all the flights of yesterday morning. But I want this. And what I want to do is to enable regional production capacity. Because I think the nice part of biofuels is, of course, emission reduction and air quality improvement. That's great. But most people forget that biofuels are much more than that. On a regional level, they can also create employment, rural development, energy security, also strengthening local industries like the forestry industry here or pulp and paper industry. And we also want to bring these local benefits to where you want them. So basically also where you use the fuel. And we've been working here in Sweden, but also in Norway, together with Sekab, for example, but also Trekklingen, to enable this. And this is not easy. And this is also what we're talking about, right? Because there are several steps that we need to take. But I think the horizons are rather green. Because I think you've talked about the EU incentives that, well, it's still uncertain, but if there is an incentive for biojet fuel, either a multiplier or a mandate, that will be a major game changer, because in that way we can at least reduce the price gap significantly. So that will be a major game changer, but I think that is not enough, because that does establish demand, but that not necessarily establishes supply on a local level. It also not necessarily supplies biojet fuel at the most sustainable fashion that you can imagine. And it also not necessarily drives innovation, for example. I mean, if you establish a mandate, we can still, there's still the possibility that our biofuel will come from Singapore, for example, or will remain to come from California, whereas actually we want it over here. So that's why I also think that these four things are really, really important, actually, to establish that. So national and regional incentives, and what I'm thinking about is some kind of auctioning system that you have for wind energy as well, where well, technology providers or project developers can sign up and say, well, if you give me a guaranteed feed-in tariff for 10 years, I can produce it for X euros per liter. So please give me that. But also, I think we need everybody around the supply chain. So we need to engage corporates, which the Fly Green Fund is already doing. We need to engage airports. We recently launched our airport initiative together with Carbon War Room, in which we help airports to understand their role in the supply chain and also help them to see, okay, what can we do to enable local production capacity? And we also engage end users, so start to make end user proposition like, well, we have Swish, but also we started Tribu. So I think all these things in the end should lead to that what we actually want. So with that, I want to thank you and also to encourage you to interact. And if you have any questions, ask me. I'm very happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
That's an impressive journey, and you've done some really smart things. Which airline, is it KLM that has the most passenger kilometers on biofuels?
I haven't made that calculation, but it's either KLM, United, maybe Lufthansa.
Okay. Yeah. How do they pay for it?
KLM.
Yeah, or Lufthansa.
Yeah, basically KLM paid for it with their corporate program. So it's basically it's similar to the Fly Green Fund, but then it's only for one airline, so only for KLM. So that's, for example, how they enabled their their flying high flights and also their flights from LAX. Yeah.
Anna from BRA, she coined an expression because the word for queue or line rhymes with green. So if you have a green card, you go ahead of the line. So if you pay for biofuels, in this case BRA, then you go ahead of the line with your board airplane, and that would be that would fit into your list of ideas.
Love it. Yeah,
that's good. Okay, well, we'll have you back for debate because this is interesting. You've seen all the different initiatives. You've seen what works. You had a good list of several initiatives that could work, and it's impressive to see that you've been so active in our region up here. Very glad to see that.
Well, it's beautiful, right? So why not?
Things are happening here. Thank you very much, Sierk. See you soon up here again.
Yeah.